Hello again, and welcome to the program. I am Suren. More questions than answers. Have you ever thought about your own body shape and never spoken about it to anyone? Do you like what you see in the mirror or in your mind's eye? Quite a number of us tend to ask, what do others see in me as? Sometimes we tend to see ourselves completely different than what a photograph of us would show. Sometimes we might see our old image on a video screen or on television and never like to look of it. However, we are told to accept ourselves as we would love to be accepted by others. But if I cannot accept myself because I am in this shape, what could I do to make myself appear more pleasant and more beautiful than what I see in this screen, so that others may also like me as I do? But do we know exactly what others think of us? Do we really look as we think we do? Some of us claim to hear a voice within or without, which tends to reveal some unacceptable emotions. But how truthful is that voice? Is it really somebody talking to us and telling how ugly we look? Did nobody else be interested in seeing us? Or is it part of our imagining mind, which makes comparisons with others who appear to be nicer and good-looking than we do in photographs, magazines, or on television screen? The best action in this case is to be able to ask and get others' honest opinions about our looks, or perhaps even what they professionally point at. Would a different hairdo or a different clothing help us look the way we would like to look? It may take years to realize that we need to accept ourselves first before making the best of our looks. However, for every one of us, the answer to that question would be most certainly different. However, it is quite interesting to see only the distortions, and so hard to bring an image of a reality closer together, especially for women. I would say in full agreement with Gloria Steinem, the psychologist, that the first step should be for us to realize that our body image is not the reality, because it often departs from anything that might be considered as being the objective reality. Sometimes women would be asked, in a hospital for instance, to estimate the width of a box by duplication or duplicating it on a bar with movable margins, as it happened once in a London hospital, apparently. And they were right on the target. But when they were asked to estimate which of their own bodies at bust, waist, and hip level, they all overestimated their conclusions by about 25%. Even those who were at their ideal weight and under some medical standard felt that they needed to lose weight. When comparing these results with the parallels within the study of women who happened to be believing in binging on food and then probably purging by vomiting. Yeah, and which I would call abnormal. not more likely to overestimate their body size than those normal ones. In many ways, particularly women with eating disorders or body which doesn't belong to a special category, however, those with very extreme responses to a culture which emphasizes being seen, an impossible standard of appearance for themselves instead of health and individuality. In a book written some time ago by Rita Friedman, a professor of psychology, reflects the goal in body love and how there happens to be a round of studies that show just how negative and remote from reality females' body images are. We even discover that a large number of 10-year-old girls rated themselves as the single least attractive girl in the school. A group of teenage girls of them frequently felt ugly, while still a few of them felt good about their appearances. A larger number of adult women considered themselves heavier than they really were, while other women were considered beautiful by others' standards. They were just as likely to be dissatisfied with their looks. Dr. Friedman summarized that there is hardly any connection between a woman's actual physical attractiveness and her satisfaction with the body's age and feelings of age and feelings of self. However, there is a strong relationship between body image and self-esteem. Are there any differences? No, not really. They too tend to have an inaccurate body image, but in the opposite direction. Now, according to Gloria Steinem, some generally were satisfied with their overall looks, comparing themselves with other women. Also, might feel less or are closer to a normal than they actually are. And they generally rate themselves as being at least as attractive as others. Another book titled The Beauty Myth. Naomi and Wolf writes that only one man in 10 strongly satisfied with his body as compared to 1 in 3 women. And also that about 1/3 of men were overweight by medical standards. This book summarized that studies show that women unrealistically destroyed their bodies negatively. Men distorted their lives positively. Interesting, isn't it? It is also a fact that punishes men by perpetuating overweight and contributing to men's lower life expectancy. In this respect, gender differences are extremely pronounced. If it is concluded that by comparing studies that many able-bodied women had a more negative body image and so also lower esteem, self-esteem, than do many disabled people. And most strikingly, if anybody, women were compared only to disabled men. In this study, men are almost always considered as being okay. Well, women were rarely okay in the matter of how they looked. Obviously, there was a complete erroneous viewpoint that the society was geared to consider. Woolf further wrote in a Western legacy of religion based on men resembling God and women having sinful or unclean bodies. How long the assumption? In the seminars, it was discussed how difficult to dislike one's own body was. We all need to like ourselves, male or female. One is likely to feel good about physical appearance and often to cause others to do so well. In French language, I should say, there is a very nice terminology. Jolie laid, beautiful ugly, unfortunately not fully understood. By the way, how one presents oneself, one becomes more beautiful. Consider, for both men and women, their body image remains constant, in spite of drastic changes as we grow older. The age plays very little role. The Lancet, a British medical journal, once reported that we may indeed have opinions of our capacity at sports, cricket, and at maths, and at the cha-cha, or any other dance. But we also have a global opinion of our general worth. It is global or core opinion that correlates with body image. This positive image may persist in spite of external biases, which favor being judged to be more defective. Your body image needs to be positive and rooted deeply enough in childhood to remain positive. Physically appealing children tend to be given more attention by their teachers, if you have noticed. Nice-looking people are often perceived as intrinsically good, fat people as lazy, inefficient, or self-indulgent. A dark skin or kinky hair may be looked down upon in a racist culture, but those words become simply epithets. However, if we want the best in life, the best place to start needs be to our appreciation of our authenticated bodies. Remember that our physicalities can teach us. Naturally occurring signals can show us how to deal with and ultimately what to do when facing the prospect of aging. To start, it can be turned into virtue, or we can create a state of unhealthy denial. We all have some idea of future, but when we keep on maturing, we may face unexpected issues we need to deal with. As with my own early stages of cancer diagnosis, for example, and I had to accept my changing future. I considered myself truly lucky, for I am still here with a definite purpose, and happy that I have dealt with that unexpected surprise element once for all. I learned that fear of aging was the fear of new stages of existence. Now I realize that as our bodies know their transitional times are leading us into states of being positively or negatively inclined. It does not discriminate any gender. One other addition to my maturing individuality was being always hopeful and always positive about the outcome of circumstances. and dealing with multiple projects I personally created. Aging is not a death sentence, and as we discover along the pathways of life, for it is the realization of having a body with all its senses. We need to learn how to communicate with our physical counterparts. Imagine now looking at the mirror image and telling it how much you love that person you are talking to. If we bless and love our bodies, they in turn will bless and love us back. Question: why does romance often start at a physical distance, crossing across the psychic chasm, and race but thriving on death and separation? Think about it. Probably projecting one's lost qualities onto somebody else is done so easily from a distance. And so romance grows weaker with closeness, deadlines, and familiarity. Although it doesn't need to be. The reason can be, or even giving us, the rest of our unique self. Many women need romance more than men. Some human qualities are labeled as masculine and a few as feminine, but women have an even greater need to this, projecting the life of themselves into another human being. While it lasts, romance may bring such an explosive feeling of merging, melting, and losing boundaries. It seems we are indeed making love to the rest of ourselves. Personally, I feel that I fell in love when I was very vulnerable, feeling not so good about my own self. Some falling out of love crash as if having taken poisons. Why is that so? Well, shared values, working out together, friendship, and indeed anything is very likely to lead you to a lasting love. Then the usual romance, although you might think that this remains different. Do you need to wait to make basic decisions in your life, the ones needing to be by your future partner? Do you worry about pleasing or improving him or her, then pleasing and improving yourself? Are you prone to a lot of eating and drinking? If the person you are in love with could change his or her problems, would your problems be solved also? Is your sense or well-being determined more by the state of your love than your own life? If your answers are yes to these, you are playing your role where romance blooms at a distance and diminishes eventually with a certain amount of pain. If you give yourself up and all devoting and surrendering yourself with something habitually, romance can become an addiction, and it is a cycle that repeats over time, perhaps not much different than alcohol addiction, but it is expanded to include other addictions as well. However, many human beings do take on the role of denial, believing we can find ourselves in a foreign substance in the body and mind of a different person, though we have not invented this problem. Just consider for a brief moment. Everyone on the face of earth is born with a full circle of human qualities. On the other hand, society is geared to play totalitarian gender roles that divide labor and assigning behavior, providing the paradigm for race and class, and being accepted that they may be seen as part of the nature, as also explained by Gloria. Obviously, there is also the issue of jealousy. It also proceeds from the feeling of inadequacy and incompleteness. It indeed increases as self-esteem diminishes. The more unsatisfyingly and more incomplete we may feel, the more obsessed we become with owning someone at home. We have projected all our missing qualities, thus becoming more jealous. It seems that gender must be the lowest self-esteem, may make us feel more interchangeable with any other women or men. This cycle of gender roles, self-esteem, romance, jealousy, lack of love, and intimacy may lower self-esteem in more deeper general, and so making us more vulnerable in a dangerous state and daily basis. Shall we discover more abusive relationships? And when men and women confirmed traditional roles rigidly, that abuse is very likely to occur. Abusive gender arrangements structuring intimacy between males and females generally example simplified, keeping the female partially fearful of the mood and approval of the male half is perpetuated the gender politics. Believe it or not. Patriarchy seems to require violence and subliminal threat of violence in order to maintain itself. Yes, supposedly naturalness of gender rules makes male-female violence excusable, even inevitable. Romance itself serves also political purpose by offering at least some temporary reward for the gender may threaten the rebels with loneliness and rejection, or even revolutionary possibility that women and men may realize each other's shared experiences. French people say for that marriage is the only adventure open to the middle class, and I believe it needs to be updated now. Adventure of romance fails. Often. Guess what? We only blame ourselves. The internal completion which permits one to love both one's self and the other joyously and freely is hard to find anywhere. The wreckage caused by romantic obsession is a feature of everyday landscape in our lifetimes. Look at the new articles, someone who has been murdered, beaten, or imprisoned in what is known as a crime of passion. The most dangerous situation for a woman is not an unknown man in the street or even the enemy in wartime, but unfortunately it is a husband or even a lover in the isolation of their own homes. And that is what the news is all about today. Although, as it is being said, women mainly become violent in self-defense or defense of their children, the power of romantic obsession is great, and women are so much more subject that even feminine non-violent conditioning can be overcome as a child. I have experienced this situation between my mother and father, and my father had been attempting always to hurt and hit my mother. That created a feeling in me that he should depart and disappear forever. However, my mother defended herself well and protected us, her beloved sons. Here is yet another question. Could self-esteem cause the drying up of romance? The answer given by several psychologists is in current form. Perchance I should say, one additional but an important thing, the most intense form of it is curiosity. If there was no need for illusions about a magic rescue, so hooked on trying to earn someone, if the conscious of romance were stretching our understanding of ourselves, not looking for the completion of our souls, romance could be deeper, intimate, empathetic, and sensual way of learning, seeing through someone's eyes, feeling with your nerve endings, absorbing other culture or way of life from the inside, stretching our boundaries and bringing into ourselves a wider view of the world. As Gloria says, if there were equality of power and high self-esteem come on women and men, or between two lovers of the same gender, both could have the pleasure of learning and of teaching in this all five senses way, without feeling incomplete, abandoned when romance has run its course. It remains same on the experiences much written about by mostly misunderstood. Some psychologists compare the symptoms as mood swings or distortions of reality to those of many depressive disorders, which is, in many cultures, sacred form of insanity. Sacred cows in India, for example. Finding ourselves can bring more excitement and well-being and young as anything, even romance, has to offer. Consider the joy of self-discovery, solving problems, taking a piece of furniture, or inventing something, or losing self in sports, cooking for friends, writing a poem, or composing, all by reaching within the provision and then making it real. As for who we will be, we don't know. We are on the edge of history. But one thing as known is that growth comes from saying yes to the unknown. And the choices made are very clear. Who could not say yes to the whole self in the middle of discovering more? Personally, what you need to do is to get there. As it is said before, write down, if you like, in whatever order or form they come to you, all the things you want in an ideal lover, the one all about love. What about the universal I, what I call myself? not the eye that we use seeing. Ellen Watt wrote, "We do not come into this world, we come out of it, as leaves from a tree, as the ocean waves, the universe, people. Every individual is an expression of the whole realm of nature, a unique action of the total universe." Well, with that, we end this session for today, and we'll come back and meet you again by the next episode. Until then, keep smiling and be happy. Hopefully we have given you just a few thoughts to ponder upon. Thank you.